Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before we get into it with our guest, we have Lindsey back on the podcast. She was on a little bit over a year ago, I believe. And, she's back on to give us an update on what she's been up to. And, obviously throughout this year, it's just so fascinating what everyone's gone through. So we'll talk to her a little bit about that. And she's a few weeks post show. I know you can probably tell that just by taking, one look at her. But before we get into all that, Lindsey, thank you so much for coming back on.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. It's always a pleasure. I love watching your podcast with the other athletes, and your interviews are always very interesting, very very fun to listen to, fun to watch.
Absolutely, and I really really do appreciate that. But even though we can tell in the background, I gotta ask because I ask this every time. What's the weather like in California today?
Oh my God. Yeah, everyone that's not in California is gonna hate. Well, I mean, unless you're in Florida. 75 and just gorgeous, clear skies. It's a little cool in the shade and in the evenings and mornings are crisper, but yeah, I can't lie. I love California. I love living here. Very blessed.
Yeah, that is just absolutely ridiculous, and it just makes me just want to move out someplace like that. But hey, we got to deal with that. But I don't want to depress everyone. So why don't you give us an update on what you've been up to since we last talked? Because especially during this coronavirus, it feels like it's been 10 years ago. But what have you been up to?
Yeah, this last year, 2020 has been quite the year. It's cast a lot of unpredictable opportunities, and definitely a lot of different things to navigate for sure. Um, prior to the shutdown and earlier this year, I had plans to go to the Arnold Classic. I had started my off season, putting on good muscle mass. My lifts were up in awesome triple digit numbers, and I was definitely looking forward to the year. Little did we know, it's funny. The Arnold Classic, that date really marks in March, like when the shutdowns hit everyone. Because I think it was 2 weeks out from that, where I started getting updates from the league and for the organization, and they were saying like, oh, okay, well, we might just open it to exhibitors, or we might just open it to X number of people, or it's going to be traffic control. And then it was 5 days before where they said, okay, we're probably not going to hold this. We may or may not know. And I had to make that decision to cancel my flight, cancel my hotel. It really was down to the wire. And I can't imagine all of those companies and all of the athletes were at least the athletes could still step on stage, and they were able to have judges, you know, um, place them, and they were able to compete um, without an audience. So that was good that they still held that. But all the companies that were counting on, the not only the exhibit to take place, but also, to be seen there by other companies maybe, and strategic partners, and that was not able to happen. And fortunately, we live in a digital age where we're able to present our businesses and our brands and market ourselves in a digital space to reach our audience. But it's been tough. We're probably not going to see the LA Fitness Expo like we usually see in January. Um, right now I let you know that I'm down in Santa Monica, and I went out this morning, and LA County has just shut down again, so you can't eat inside anywhere. I had to, every morning I have a bowl of oatmeal and protein powder mixed in. And so, I'm balancing that on my lap on a chair or whatever ledge I could find outside this coffee shop, because you can't, you, it's tough. It's all the storefronts that I'm seeing that are closed too, really really in a tough time right now. And so, what I can see from this is that those companies and people that are able to pivot and to recreate themselves and to find, different strengths in this climate, good for them.
No, it's yeah, it's just amazing how So many more things have even gotten more digital than they already have. And I mean, I even saw that, movie theaters are going to release all their movies next year, on demand along with the movie theaters. So it's, yeah, just how things have changed. But you mentioned that you put on size. What do you think is one body part that you've really improved on most since we last talked?
Definitely my legs. Yeah, definitely my quads. I've been really focused on, well, and my hamstrings. I've been really focusing on building my legs, conditioning my legs, and part of this sport is, okay, how much mass do you want to build first of all, and how long is that going to take, and what quality of mass do you want? All those things get factored in. In what shape do you want? Do you want to build out, the outside of your quad? Do you want to build out that center of your quad? Do you need it to? Do you need deeper lines there? Do you need more? For women, it's always it shows a lot of conditioning in when you can get your hamstrings to kind of come out a little bit. And so all these things factor into play as far as like when you schedule your split each week, and what types of movement patterns you're doing on a consistent basis, and the load, of course, too. It's always time under tension, but as far as like the angle and exercises performed, those definitely matter. So I just try to be really strategic and have some really awesome days for lifting. And fortunately, throughout this whole year, I've had a great support system from my local gym owner and the owner of Custom Workouts in Santa Maria. He has allowed me to safely practice and use the gym facility. And I'm so grateful for that, because I wouldn't have been able to compete without that.
We've heard so many stories like that too, where it's just people are letting, especially competitors come in the gym, or they're just, turning a blind eye. And I really do think that helps, because a lot of people, they're not lucky like some people who might have like a gym in their house, but most people really don't have that. But that's just so great. But when you are training, I mean, have you, like, when you do your splits and stuff and you do your time under tension? Well, first of all, when I did time under tension for my legs once, never doing it again, because I woke up and I took four steps off the bed and then I basically collapsed. So I was like, okay, yeah, that's I need to at least be able to walk the next day. But when you're doing your splits, how have you adjusted them from last year? Because like if I mean, I'll show a photo of you before and a photo of you now. I mean, you've made a lot of changes. So how is the training part of the splits really differentiated?
I still do really muscle group focused splits. I try to go heaviest earlier on in the week because I take a rest day, typically rest cardio day on Sunday, so then I'm fresh Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I also carb cycle. I know a lot of athletes do carb cycle, and so on my higher carb days, those are going to be my heavier lifting days for sure. So, as far as my split goes, I try to hit legs 2 or 3 times a week. I think I've developed enough now over the year where I can back off on that and go twice a week or every 4 days. I'm learning also too that my body needs, because I have put on so much mass, my body needs more rest. And those rest days are so important, that recovery. I've heard something recently and it stuck with me. You should recover as hard, if not harder, than you train, if that makes sense. So I'm using things like compression sleeves for my legs. I'm going to a local stretch therapist who helps. He does the Graston for me, the scraping, and whenever I feel stuck, or I have some type of impingement, maybe a little bit too much tightness, he helps me work that out so that I don't have that lactic acid buildup in there, restricting my range of motion. Um, I see a chiropractor religiously once or twice a week. So
I, I I saw one a couple of times, and yeah, that's a game changer. Yeah, that's that is one of the best feelings if you really get really that good adjustment. But I mean, during this pandemic too, I mean, nutrition has been one thing that a lot of people have struggled with because of the food shortages, or because all these other things. What is your experience with pandemic wise, at least, the nutrition aspect? Because the more size you put on, the more you're gonna have to eat. But were there any struggles at all finding that nutrition, or was it not as hard as a lot of people?
I'm very fortunate to live in a place where we're not a food desert. We have a lot of local agriculture at our fingertips. We also have a lot of local farmers. So in areas where they may have had meat shortages, we didn't face that. So luckily, no, I have a variety of sources of food, as well as meal prep companies that I've leaned on too when I've gotten too busy to prep my own meals. And there's a lot to be grateful for this at this time. So nutrition hasn't really been that big of a deal. I think earlier this year when things were a little bit more stressful and I was kind of figuring out, what my business model would be, because I am in the fitness industry as well, Ryan. And personal training is my bread and butter. So, um, you know, at the beginning in March, I didn't know how that was going to be affected. And so, relating that to nutrition, I did find myself stress eating a little bit. And so that that definitely, threw a wrench into my progress just a little bit. But we learn from that and we just do better.
How did you deal with everything mentally too? Because so many people talked about the physical effects that might have happened to them when it comes to this pandemic, but I mean, the mental effects are something that I think are going to be impacting people for years to come. How did you deal with that? Because I mean, like I said, with bodybuilders, I mean, the gym is basically your drug. So I mean, if you even struggle for a little bit with it, or with the food, how did you deal with all this mentally, and how did you make that adjustment once like you said, you had some days with food, but how did you adjust that mindset and get back into the groove of things?
That's a really good question. You know what? I surround myself by those that will only add positively to my goals and my life in general. It doesn't mean that they have to always be found in the gym. My support system, are my girlfriends, other moms that I find inspiring, or that I'm able to kind of share my journey with. And seeing and being around those positive influences have really helped me mentally. We've really helped each other. It's just the community coming together. I also, at the beginning of the shutdowns, I converted my garage into a fitness studio. So I was able to train in my garage a little bit, quite a bit, but I don't know if I would have been able to be competition ready with what I have. But I also opened it up to my neighborhood and other community members that we have yoga, we have Pilates bar, we have a glute camp. And it's so inspiring to see these women. They're just like, you know what? I just need this hour of time for this workout or this stretch or whatever. Just I need this mental break. And they're there really. I do the glute camps. I have other teachers doing the different group classes. But when I see the glute camp members working their butts off, literally, and just they're it means so much more. It's not just a workout. It's their mental health time. It's their therapy, to get out any tension, to take a break from, everyone's at home as far as like kids homeschooling, partners working from home. So I feel grateful. I feel really fortunate to be able to open my space up to that, to be able to share their energy and just that sense of gratitude. It's so the sweat means so much more than just sweat.
Yeah, and I mean, people should really be getting more into it too because they have so much more free time now. But yeah, it's just finding ways to adapt and evolve, and that's been a theme that I think has been on the podcast, more than anything else. But one thing that I love to talk about last time is posing, and obviously with this whole new year, have you changed up your posing at all from last time that we talked?
I have. I definitely have changed up. So for the first time, a bodybuilding. I entered the bodybuilding division and competed in women's bodybuilding, and so those poses are very different than anything that I've done. And I like the classic bodybuilding style because that's where everything stems from. That's where the figure posing comes from, and that front pose where you have your shoulders up and your
Good God, everyone, look at her shoulders. That's not even fair. Look at those delts. That's just absolutely insane. Jesus.
I know, but good posing, right?
Mhm.
Good posing,
Yeah.
and you're like, wow, that's a totally different physique
Yeah.
than sitting here and like,
Yeah.
Relaxed.
Well, even sitting here relaxed, I mean, Jesus, I mean, it's just absolutely insane. But what out of the new bodybuilding poses that you do now, what is your favorite? What is your least favorite?
Ooh, good question. Okay, so I think my favorite is the side chest. I think I just love the way that the top of the chest looks. You can see your front delt, your shoulders, your biceps, and I really love a really well defined bicep, especially on a woman. I think um, it's a sign that you are really carefully crafting your physique.
Let's see the guns. Give us a front double bi. Let's see the biceps.
How they look into it.
Oh my God, that's just insane. Here, hold that for a second. That's just absolutely ridiculous. Everyone, we all got to go and train arms today. That's incredible. Yeah, she's definitely got them. So, yep. But yeah, that's a great pose as well. But what is your least favorite?
Least favorite pose. That's a good question. I think I could improve my side tricep. I think my triceps are lagging just a little bit compared to the other muscles on the
I was
arm.
gonna say, not to me they aren't, but yeah.
So I think that's why it's my least favorite pose.
Has it been an adjustment at all, like when it comes to the conditioning for those poses? Because I mean, just being a bodybuilder in and of itself and posing, I mean, you have to hold them, and it takes a lot of conditioning. And some of these workouts are, or posing sessions are even harder than most of your workouts. Was it an adjustment at all, being used to having those types of poses conditioning as opposed to the figure poses?
It was a little bit of an adjustment. I do like the fact that I could take my heels off, so that's helpful. I love that. Um, but it feels so natural. The bodybuilding foot poses just feel so natural. Just the movement through all the poses. Where I found myself in the figure poses being trying to be too rigid and structured. And maybe it was having the shoes on and feeling like, okay, well, I have to be, super composed and I didn't flow as well. But I mean, I'm still competing in both divisions. I have the USA's coming up in a week, and I'm going to be there competing in bodybuilding and in figure. So,
So, what have your results, or what has it been looking like for your results when it comes to bodybuilding and figure? What have you been placing better in?
I took third in both this last competition. So I know one placement away from my pro card, which is like, it's like, it's bittersweet, right? Because you're so close, but there's the feedback from the judges was that my upper body is there. They don't want me. Okay. Don't do anything to your upper body. It's perfect. It's beautiful. It's great. Um, my lower body just needs to catch up. Size and conditioning, and so I'm just working on getting those lines into my quads, my hamstrings, drying out a little bit more, and I think USA should be it.
So, as someone who's been a serial struggler when it comes to their lower body, just because I'm 6'3" and that's just not going to happen, what have you been doing for lower body to really change things up? Because right now I'm at a point where I'm willing to take any advice right now and trying anything, but there's mixed results.
Well, you have to eat a ton.
Yep.
I hope you know that with quality protein.
I mean, my food bill is just absolutely ridiculous. Yeah.
That's the largest. I think that's probably the largest expense in the sport for sure. Um, so it's what I found. I read a lot on T Nation. I don't know if you're familiar with T Nation, um, but there was a great article about building legs, and really our goal for when we want to grow a lot of the times is hypertrophy. We want to get into that hypertrophy range. We want that time under tension for growth. And, there's different ways to achieve that. But one thing that I started doing was going 100 consecutive reps on the leg press. Just no, yeah, just not stopping to get that blood flow in there, to get that time under tension. Um, just doing 100 reps. And first I started with the no weight, just the press itself. And then I started adding a plate on each side. And then now I'm able to do 2 plates on each side, 100 consecutive reps without stopping, just tension the whole time. And that's how I start my leg day. And then I'll do my whole leg workout, maybe like 5 or 6 different exercises, or sometimes 4 exercises if I'm going, a larger number of sets. and then finishing with the leg press. So then after, then you go back and whatever sets that you're doing that day, whatever uh, rep ranges, you just that's your finisher. But I found that it's you're what you're doing is you're causing those muscles in your legs to fill up with blood, so that everything that you do after that, you're getting closer and closer to that hypertrophy range where there's just nowhere for all that blood to go. So your muscles have to grow. You're almost forcing them to grow.
Well, yeah, if you're doing 100 reps, I was gonna say, yeah, they better grow. I mean, otherwise, I don't know what's going on. They're either gonna, pop or they're gonna grow. But yeah, I've done something similar to that too, where we used to just do burnout sets for we did them for arms, and then I used to do them for calves because that's the worst thing for me. But yeah, it's all about changing and evolving, and it's great that you finally found that really works best with you. But I mean, being a mom, how have your kids been handling this pandemic? Because that's a whole nother conundrum in and of itself when it comes to schooling, when it comes to everything else. What has that journey been like?
Oh my gosh. You know, I try to look at the silver lining. I try to stay positive on most things. And so, taking a step back, I'm really, really fortunate to have that extra time with my kids, to have them at home and to, um, you know, have be more of a presence and example in their lives. Um, but yeah, there's been some tense moments. My girls are 15 months apart, so some days they're best friends. Some days they just want to throw darts at each other, whatever. But we've made the best of it. We got a puppy this year, so like a lot of other people, we've added a furry friend to our household, and she's great. She's been oh my god, a wonderful source of just positive, fun energy and a good distraction too. I think for my kids, as far as not we're not able to go and take the trips that we like to take and spend time with maybe other social groups that we normally would. So that's been good. It's been uplifting. Right now, my girls are homeschooled, so they're pretty independent. They're 10 and almost 12 right now, so pretty independent. And I have to hand it to them. They really are doing a phenomenal job, just staying on task at home. So I mean, some days they don't get up until 9 o'clock in the morning, and that's a little late for me. And then they have to, I have to kind of straighten them up a little bit because, I mean, I'm sure I've told you, like most days I wake up at like 4:30. So that to me, I'm like, okay, guys, we need to kick our butts in gear here a little bit. But besides that, I really have no complaints.
Did you ever get them to go to the gym just to work off all that extra energy in the garage?
Okay, so one thing we started this fall, because I am homeschooling them, we started doing karate in my studio at home and PE. So we 1 day a week we do an hour of PE every Monday, and it's like a trainer led PE. So it's good. And then karate. Again, I'm just so blessed with the community support I have around me. I have a teacher that comes to the studio and he volunteers. This is completely free. I've opened it up to my inner circle and their kids, and we practice Ishinru karate, and the kids they love it. It's a good outlet for them. It's a different social group, um, and they're learning about a whole different culture. So.
Yeah, that's amazing, and yeah, that's just so great that you're able to do that, and it's always a great way to let off some steam for them. But yeah, it's just these times that we live in right now. But what was it like going on prep during this pandemic? Because we had some people who maybe like you were they were getting ready for a show, and then all of a sudden everything got canceled, and we had some people that were on prep for like 9 months basically waiting to get to a show. But what has this whole prep journey been like for you during this pandemic?
Oh my gosh, 9 months! Wow.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, one of them lost like 20 pounds too of like muscle because they were dieted down for that long. And I was like, oh, that sucks. But yeah.
Yeah, see, I've been pretty patient, and I waited until there was like a for sure, and that's why I went to well, it was moved to Orlando, but that's why I went to the national championships, because I waited and waited, and I did not want to lose that muscle mass I had worked so hard for. So I kind of just refused to go into like a strict prep diet until I had that date in mind, or that um, final date that wasn't going to be moved. And it was prep this year was okay. I was with all the things going on in my life. I think I was a little bit busier than I would have liked to be during a prep. So I didn't get as much sleep as I wanted to. I think that was definitely a catalyst for me, was rest.
How were you able to function? Because I mean, with all the training that you're doing and all the muscle that you're putting on, I mean, you need your sleep. How are you able to go without, that proper amount of sleep that you would try to get? Because for me, I mean, if I have a bad night's sleep, I mean, it's very hard for me to work out.
I gotta hand it to Bang Energy. They really have produced a great product. And I know I try not to, use too much caffeine. But I definitely have probably over caffeinated on some days. And then also naps. Naps do have a place in your life. And there's something to be said for taking 20, 30 minutes and just laying your head down and resting, and or getting like, trying to get at least a REM cycle every night.
I mean, I'm one of those people where I wasn't born to be able to take naps. I mean, I've probably taken about a dozen of them in my life. I just when as soon as I get up, I'm up. It's a curse, when I take a nap, like I'm actually like feeling a little tired right now. So as soon as we're done right now, what I'll do is I'll actually just lay in my bed and close my eyes for like half an hour. Won't fall asleep or anything like that, but I'll also have my eyes closed where it'll feel like I slept for like 5 minutes though. But yeah, unfortunately, that's really like the only thing that I can do. But yeah, I mean, it's what you have to do these days. But yeah, it's just with the sleep schedules and everything, especially during this pandemic, everything really just does seem out of whack. But yeah, what was your overall, show experience like? Did they have to have you wear masks when you were like not on stage or stuff? What was that whole sort of like safety thing like?
Right. So it was held at the Orange County Convention Center in Orlando. This that the national championships was, and my only show during this COVID. And so my experience was that, just like any other place in public settings, you have to have your mask on. That included backstage. You had to have your mask on, and the only time you could really that it was appropriate to take it off was when you're lining up, pumping up, and being expedited to the stage and performing.
Yeah. I mean, at least they let you do that because we saw some shows where you had to have the mask on while you were posing. But the only positive thing about that is that you don't need to smile then, so you can really just your face doesn't need to be like the most sore thing after a show because you're just smiling the whole darn time. But yeah, it's just fascinating. Yeah.
That's got to be hard for especially I think, some of the competitors that do have a great smile and are, that's their whole package. That's got to be tough too.
Yeah. No, I was not blessed with that great of a smile, so I won't even do it right now. But that's it would benefit me, but I don't really know about anything else. But how are you thinking about? I mean, I know you got a show next week, but how are you thinking about your off season as opposed to this last year? Because I mean, your off season must be completely different because you put on all this size and just the pandemic that we're dealing with. Do you have any different plans for your off season this year as opposed to what you did last year?
Um, as far as you always want to push yourself. So, I don't want to, there's, as far as changing my approach, just working out with more intention, I think. More intention, staying conditioned. I love training. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I didn't love training. So, you know, doing all the different athletic things, I think being a well-rounded athlete is important. I don't want to just have a bunch of size and not be able to run a 7-minute mile. That's not the type of athlete I want to be. I want to be the athlete that still has the explosiveness, that still has the stamina, that still has the endurance to do all the things.
Well, if you'd have told me that you didn't like working out and you looked like that, I was like, get me on her program then. Good God, if she really hates it, but then you get those results, it's like, come on, that's just ridiculous. But one of the things that I've really picked up since this pandemic is cardio, just because I have a treadmill downstairs and I have a lot of free time, so I'm on there a lot. But what has your relationship with cardio been like this last prep?
You know what? I think I overdid it a little bit, and with my lack of rest, that wasn't. I kind of stressed my body out. I overdid my cardio going into nationals, so now I backed off a little bit. to retain that fullness in my muscles, um, and to allow my body to rest a little bit more, recover a little bit more during between my training sessions. But I still get on the stairs every morning, do my fasted cardio at least 30 minutes. If I do stairs in the evening, it's at least another 30 minutes. And I'm really active during the day as a trainer. You're constantly walking around the gym, picking things up. Sometimes you're training with your clients if you're teaching a group class. Sometimes you're doing a little bit of training there as well. Um, so I mean, yeah, my conditioning and what I consider my cardio has been it's been pretty consistent.
What's it been like being a trainer during all this, dealing with, people, maybe some might be afraid to come back in the gym because they're just, just worried. What has that been like, sort of gauging how you're able to still be able to make a living because of the fact that, some people just are scared, and it's totally understandable.
That's a very good question, Ryan, and thanks for bringing that up. A lot of trainers have pivoted and offer online training, which I do. I offer online training to anyone who reaches out to me who's looking for, a specific program. And I've been training with one of my clients since this started, and Jen, she's amazing. She has a little girl who watches her train, who helps take out her yoga mat with her. And 4 days a week, she's training 40 minutes with me, or another instructor, and this is all done Zoom. So it's like our interview right now, and I'm able to guide her, coach her, and teach her, and she's looking great. She's actually she became pregnant during this time too, so I've seen that grow, and we've had to adapt her programming because of that. But man, her cardio is great. Her flexibility, mobility, and strength is up, and I commend her for staying so consistent. That's just one example. But as far as being a trainer, you have to meet your clients where they're at. COVID or not, you have to meet your clients where they're at. And if I've had a client or two that isn't comfortable in a gym setting, and so we'll meet out at a park, or I have my private studio, so luckily I have control of that, right in my garage, and it's fully equipped for personal training. It's got my professional gym floor put in there, as well as a studio wood flooring. So we're able to do quite a bit in there as far as personal one-on-one sessions go. And then it's you're not having contact with other people. You're not putting anyone at risk or yourself at risk. And it's all about the flexibility, the flexible approach. And I've seen trainers during COVID that they've had to do completely outdoor programs, just 100% outside. And so if it rains one day, okay, great, guys, we're gonna go jog and work out in the rain, and you just kind of just get in your fitness where you can.
Hey, I mean, people are finding so many different ways to work out now, but that leads me perfectly into my favorite question to ask, especially during this time. And I alluded to it a little bit before, but I mean, so many people have so much more free time now. And I mean, the number one excuse that I go over every time for a first time guest is, everyone always says, "Oh, I just don't have the time. I just don't know how to do. I mean, I just don't have the time for it." If you have that excuse now, I want to know what's going on in your life, because everyone seems to have a lot more free time now. But along with that free time, so many people. I mean, I shouldn't say so many people, because I really think that it's everybody wants to get in shape. They just don't know how to do it. That's the one thing that's holding them back. But what advice would you have for someone who might come up to you and say, "Hey, Lindsey, I'm really, with all this free time that we have now, or more time that I have to work out, I really want to get started, but I just don't know how to get started." What advice would you have for them just to be able to take that first step?
I think the first step is consistency. The first step is, well, what type of movement do you like to do? Do you like to go on walks? Do you like to go on hikes? Do you like to bike? Do you like to swim? Do you like to rollerblade? Whatever movement you like to do more of that consistently, because ultimately that's what you need to do. You just need to move your body, and so that's a good place to start. So now once you're moving consistently, so you're using more calories, you're getting that heart rate up more consistently, then start thinking about, okay, well, maybe I want to strength train. Maybe I want to, because weight training, there's so many benefits to weight training. We've delved into that. And if someone makes the decision that, okay, well, or maybe a different method, maybe they'd rather do boxing, whatever type of exercise that they want to do, I recommend hiring a trainer, because you're going to learn things that you can't learn from watching YouTube videos or Instagram IGTV, or um, any other methods, or reading a book. You're going to learn stuff that you have to be taught by another individual, that someone has taught them. And so when you hire a trainer, whatever sport that might be for, you're not necessarily paying them for their time, their minutes right there. You're paying them for everything that they've learned and absorbed, and their expertise up to that point. There's a lot of value in that. And so I definitely recommend going that route if you want to be very efficient with your time, and very goal oriented with what you want to achieve as far as your fitness goes.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't recommend it more. And everyone, just go for a walk too. I mean, that's like the easiest thing. And if you have, if you're able-bodied and have both your legs, just go for a walk. I mean, that's the best thing that you can really do to, I mean, go ahead and really get started for yourself. And yeah, it's just, I mean, interesting times that we live in. But I asked this to, every guest, and again, this answer is going to be completely different than the last time, because I asked this to you last time. If we were to talk to you a year from today, where would you like to be at? Now, again, if you would have predicted a global pandemic when we last talked, I would have, put money against it, and I would have lost. So, shows how smart I am. But in an ideal world, if we were to talk a year from today, where would you like to be at in your bodybuilding? Where would you like to be at just in your, your personal training? What are some goals that you'd like to have achieved?
A year from now, I would love to have either stepped off or be starting my training for the Olympia stage. That is the ultimate goal for any bodybuilder, would be to go to the Mr. Olympia, and that's definitely a dream of mine. So, I'm gonna keep working at it.
Yeah, that's, and that's just so great. And then I also got to ask you about what you train for two body parts, because we mentioned it before. Your shoulders are just, they're just popping out of there. So what do you do for shoulders? Because I'm one of those people where I used to have really, really good ones, but then since I started this podcast, I'm not able to train as much. I still have decent shoulders, but not nearly as good. But what does a good shoulder workout look like for you?
A lot of Arnold presses. Do a lot of Arnold presses. Sometimes I'll actually start with just the shoulder press machine, just again to get blood into the muscles, and kind of almost like pre-exhaust them, and then go into my shoulder workout. So a lot of lateral raises, what I call a Cuban press or an upward row with the easy bar, um, a lot of front raises, plate raises, and, I don't necessarily do a lot of military press, just because as a female, I don't want my core to be too thick. So my overhead stuff has to be done in a very isolated way where I'm not using my core. Um, and, it's just working with a lot of dumbbells really for shoulders, just the weight of dumbbells and gravity. I think that's some of the best way to build that shoulder muscle.
Well, and I think you need to be get blessed a little bit genetically too, because just have shoulders that look like that. I mean, they don't just pop out of thin air. But lastly, I mean, biceps, because we talked about them before, and every guy wants a nice set of arms, and everyone that's listening is like, oh, ask her how you get nice arms. So, what do you do for your arms? I mean, because and most people don't. I mean, don't forget your triceps too. That's the biggest part of your arm, and if you have nice triceps, that really makes everything look bigger. But what do you do for arms?
Um, for arms, so we use our bis and tris a lot in other lifts. So, I tend to only do arms once a week. And for my arm days, I'll do bis and tris together on the same during the same workout. And same thing, a lot of dumbbells, a lot of curls in different ways and different angles. And biceps, I probably use 50% of my workouts are done using a cable, and 50% of barbell dumbbell work. I do like to do curls with the barbell, I found this exercise that I really love to do with a training partner where we ladder set. So we'll do 10, pass it 10, and then go 9, and then go down to 1, and then pass it back and forth and go up the ladder too. And so, it's just different ways to kind of just like torture yourself, I guess.
Yeah, hey, but hey, that's how you get the results. I mean, that's the stuff that it really takes. But I mean, yeah, it's just everything that we talked about. I mean, it's just so fascinating how this is all gone. But I mean, just a few couple more questions before we wrap up. So, when you are getting ready for this show now, I mean, has your diet changed at all from, is it going to change at all from where it's at now for the next week? Or are you just going to stay constant, or do you change things up at all, like maybe like a few days before the show? What is that approach like?
Definitely, yeah. So now it gets really boring and bland, and which is okay because it's you're already used to pretty much not being able to eat anything anyways. So I'll do a lot of fish, or 99% free fat or fat free, excuse me. Like there's like no carbs. So 99% fat free lean turkey. And if I'm really looking flat, then ground beef. But besides that, my proteins are super lean. I pulled eggs out of my diet just because sometimes they tend to bloat me. So no more eggs. I still do ISO pure protein powder, zero fat, zero carbs. Um, and as far as like my carbs, I'll go oatmeal, rice, and I pulled the sweet potato out just because, again, that kind of sometimes can leave you watery. So no potato. Um, Rice cakes are a staple, and that's as exciting as it gets. Some green veggies, but
I'm leaping for joy over that. But I'm going to play devil's advocate here. So let's say that you get, first or second in both bodybuilding and figure in your next show. What level would you like to compete at with your pro card?
probably figure. Yeah, because the pro female bodybuilders,
I was going to
that's
say you would have to put on about 20 or 30 pounds of muscle then if you wanted to go and compete with them. Yeah.
yes, yes. So that would be another year off season, maybe 2 years of off season. Yeah, so definitely pro figure. And there's a couple of things I know that I would need to do, which is staying conditioned and improving my condition, and then also bringing my waist in. Genetically, I it's not that I have a thick waist; it's just not as my bone structure isn't as small as some of the other figure competitors. So, that just means that I need to emphasize my strengths, my shoulders, my back, um, and try to make the rest of my body look symmetrical to that.
Well, and as I've had more figure guests on too, they always say that the one pose that really, really they struggle with the most is flaring the lats, and that's just something that I think a lot of women and men struggle with too. But we've heard stories that it takes, years upon years. So how was that journey like with you? How long did it take you before you really started to feel that? And what advice do you have for people who are looking to find that too? Because so many people, I mean, for a lot of the stories, I mean, it just happens overnight. But what was that journey like for you?
I did have to have some hands-on posing to really get my lat spread perfect. I also, one thing that has been a trick for me is that after doing wide grip pull downs, I'll stand up and I'll squeeze my lats out and pose while your lats are full of blood and they're more activated. I'll do my front lat spread and just hold that as long as I can, and that's actually really helped. It's helped that connection, that mind muscle connection, for posing for sure.
Well, and lastly, you did mention mind to muscle, and I was going to mention it anyway because that's one thing that I mean we hear of all the time, and I obviously know what it is, but just in case anyone's listening to this for the first time, I always like to pretend like I'm born under a rock. How would you describe mind to muscle connection for someone? Because it's one thing that I mean, if you really develop it, it helps you so much in your workouts, and I mean, you see, 10 times as much results. But if anyone up on the street came and asked you about it, how would you describe mind to muscle to someone?
Mind to muscle is when you can contract your muscle and feel it. Are you when you do a bicep curl, are you squeezing your bicep, or are you just letting your arm go up and down? Are you just, feeling the weight of the dumbbell in your palm, and you're just like, okay, well, I need to bend my elbow? Or are you really squeezing that bicep and really squeezing it down and squeezing it up? So that concentric and the eccentric contraction, are you fully engaged? Is it something that you feel in the entirety in that muscle group that you're working, or do you not feel it? Maybe it's not the right exercise for you. And there's always modifications you can make, and ways that you can improve that, that connection between your, neurons in your muscles and your brain, and make that connection.
One thing that I've always been fascinated by, and actually I've never asked this before, is what is the difference really if you're just going like doing fast, like a fast exercise as opposed to doing it slow? Does it just give it more time to tear down the muscle as opposed? Because I know some people that really like to do that high intensity stuff, and they get sometimes just as good, if not better, results as doing it slow and steady. So what is the big difference when, let's say, even like if you're doing like a curl and you're doing it like slow as opposed to going really fast? Does it just give it more time to tear down the muscle and really get the get what needs to be done on it?
Um, yeah, there's definitely I think, a breakdown of muscle fibers, and it just kind of depends on your goals too, Ryan. I think the high intensity, training is great if you want to build cardio into your workout, and if your focus is more on the conditioning, versus the growing and building size.
Yeah. Well, and I was thinking about like some of those CrossFit people too and stuff like that, where I mean, it's like everything is just let's get it done, let's get it done as quick as possible. Where it's like, oh, that seems a little iffy. But when you mention mind to muscle, I mean, so many people don't understand that it really is body part dependent. So let's say you develop a nice mind to muscle for your arms. That doesn't mean you have it for your legs, or it doesn't mean you have it for your back, or it doesn't mean you have it for your abs. It's one of those things where, I mean, a lot of people struggle with it where, I mean, they might, early on, they might be able to develop it for one body part, but then they try to do the same thing with the next one and it just doesn't work. But how long into your journey before you felt that you got that overall mind to muscle connection over your body? Because for so many people, I mean, it takes years.
It can, yeah. I think, um, probably mid-year last year was when I really, um, got kind of mastered that. Yeah, a little bit. And I still, and then actually at the beginning of this year, I had an injury, and where my sacrum is, I don't remember if I fell or somehow, or maybe I went a little bit too heavy on my deadlifts and, damaged it a little bit. But I lost the mind muscle connection with my glutes. So I had to rewire that, and you have to create new neurological pathways between your muscle and your brain, to activate certain body parts, and it affects your training, it affects your muscle development. But it's just, your brain has such plasticity that there's always room for growth. There, you can always repair, you can always rebuild. So don't let anything disparage you, because you can definitely still work in it and improve that.
Yeah, and just don't give up. And I've had injuries too, where one time, I had it where my back was a little bit affected, where it was a little bit harder for me. But yeah, you mean you're gonna have to, find new ways, but it is really possible. But now, I mean, is there anyone that you like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
Well, definitely my kids for supporting me and putting up with me, on those low carb days when I'm an angry person. Yeah, my girls Madison and Brooklyn are so just amazing human beings, and I can't wait to see how they grow and develop, over the next decade or two. Yeah. Um, and definitely, to all those that are in my corner, um, Marty and Jeannie Feldman have been amazing. I know Jeannie was on your show.
Oh, she was great. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was fortunate to spend Thanksgiving at their house,
Can
and
I just say her back? Oh my God, it's not even fair. Not even
I
fair.
know it's not. I'm just like, girl, just I would just love to, train with her all the time. I can't wait to see her on the, Mr. Olympia stage here in a couple weeks. So yeah, they've been really instrumental to my process and development, my growth here. So I'm very fortunate to have them in my corner. And then, um, Mark Gatson, for letting me use his gym and, continue to train there, and Um, my training partner, Anthony McDougald, he's really actually helped me to push me. You always need that person to push you, and so yeah, I've been fortunate for that.
That is awesome. Is there anything else that you'd like to say before we wrap things up?
Thanks for having me on your podcast, Ryan. I just want to say thank you to you and, to all the athletes that are continuing to pursue the sport of bodybuilding. Don't stop. Don't quit. Even during these tough times where gyms are closed and, you may not find a weight for 20 miles. Um, you can there's ways to train without any weight at all, and you just have to get creative, and you just have to believe in yourself and be patient, but keep working hard. And for those people that um you know maybe they need a little mental outlet, fitness is a great outlet for that right now. I think it's unfortunate that gyms and private training studios aren't considered essential, because I believe that fitness is essential. um, and I think we should definitely stick together and continue to support the fitness industry as an essential and vital component of our nation's health. Sure.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I mean, we had the gym shut down here. I mean, they still are until like December 11th or something like that, or the 18th, I think. And yeah, it's just if only that would be the case. But yeah, I appreciate the shout out. I
It's
mean,
yeah, it's not okay, because fitness is a natural remedy to so many health issues. You don't have to pop a pill. You can go outside and go for a 30-minute jog and achieve the same results.
well, you might not want to go for a jog here when it gets to like January, but otherwise, that's fine. I mean, if you want to jog in negative 20 degrees, I mean, more power to you. But I mean, when you get frostbite, I will not show any sympathy because you knew what you were getting into. But yeah, and everyone go and give her a follow on her Instagram page. I'll leave a link down below. I mean, beware, you will get inspired to get off that couch and stop eating those Twinkies. But again, Lindsey, thank you so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. And I don't want to talk to you anymore because you're just making me jealous. Just looking at the weather, even behind you, we can even see the sun's bright out. And if anyone's looking at me, this is how dark it is. And again, I am 2 hours ahead of her, so it's like 4 o'clock right now. But still, it's just ridiculous. But again, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Ryan.
Absolutely. Well,
Wonderful weekend.
absolutely. I'll try. We'll see if the weather gets a little bit better. But again, you guys, everyone go and give her a follow. And everyone, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.